We begin with breaking news. Two U.S. officials are confirming to Fox News that North Korea has test-launched a ballistic missile into the Sea of Japan roughly 1 hour ago. Now, the missile has been assessed to be a KN-17, a former Scud missile that officials believe being tested to one-day target ships. The missile flew roughly 25 miles and was in the air for about 15 minutes, officials tell Fox News. The North Korean missile broke up in flight and has been deemed a failure. Joining me now to discuss, Gina Loudon, and on the phone, Andrew Peak, as well as Captain Chuck Nash. Captain Nash, I've got to start with you. The KN-17 Scud missile, I'm not sure how much solace we take into the fact that this is yet another quote-unquote failure. The belligerence of North Korea on full display for the world, and I'm feeling at this very second, what has been assessed to be the greatest danger perhaps to the world has become even more dangerous.
Yeah, Charles, I think the point here is not that the missile was a failure, but that they continue to try despite all of the severe and strong words that this administration has been putting out. And, you know, we're reaping what we've sown. And it started back in the Clinton administration. North Korea has been mishandled since then. And now the can has finally been kicked as far down the road because we cannot allow it to go further where the capability matches the rhetoric. We just cannot allow that to happen.
Of course, today it's probably not surprising, but Secretary of State Rex Tillerson at the United Nations urging them to take action against North Korea, perhaps in the form of sanctions. Let's listen to that.
We must increase North Korea's financial isolation. We must levy new sanctions on DPRK entities and individuals supporting its weapons and missile programs and tighten those that are already in place.
Andrew Peak, it seems like this is dealing with North Korea by the numbers. Everyone has done this. Even the administration themselves have pointed this out. Is it going to be enough? It's obvious that North Korea is not getting the message.
No, I think that's true, Charles. And I think what's more concerning is, you know, it's not clear there's anyone around Kim Jong-un, unlike in Iran or Syria elsewhere, who is telling him that he can't actually win a confrontation with the United States. He came to power in 2012 and, you know, systematically and very quickly killed or intimidated most of his domestic opposition, such as it is, and thus he lives in a bubble of his own making. I think we are at one of the most dangerous periods of U.S.-North Korean relations probably since they first developed a nuclear weapon back in the 90s.
Guys, I want to also let the audience know that there is a statement from the White House. I'd like to read it. We are not surprised by this latest test, nor the fact that it failed. Kim continues to engage in these provocations, and they continue to fail. The White House is watching this closely and consulting with China on addressing Kim's bad behavior. The U.S. is moving toward another round of sanctions next week. Gina Loudon, is this now politically perhaps becoming President Trump's version of Obama's red line in Syria?
Well, yes, only President Trump isn't one to make promises and not keep them. President Trump is one about actions more so than words. He's dealing with a kindergarten dictator here. And this president is used to dealing with people in high-stakes negotiations, and I think that that's what he's doing here. Certainly, the fact that it appears this missile also failed lends credence to the assertion that the U.S. is involved in making sure that these continue to fail, and perhaps there's a lot going on behind the scenes here that we can't see yet.
Captain Nash, on that note, the White House also indicating that the initial indications are this is another KN-17 missile, liquid-fueled Scud variation. The last two failed. In fact, those failed on April 4th and April 16th. There was one as recent as April 18th. And I guess the point is that even though they're failing, they're moving out further and further, and the capability is there for us to see whether or not there's some sort of electronic jamming or internet interference with these. I think your earlier point should be noted that they are very determined to not only have these weapons, but we have to assume use them.
Yeah, Charles, you know, the whole thing with military is measuring capability and intent. The intent here is very clear. He is pressing forward in developing this capability, and once he gets down to the Taepodong 2 and some of the other missile programs that they have in development. Once they get that and then marry it with a small reentry capable nuclear warhead, then the whole calculus changes of how we're doing this. We cannot allow it to get to that point. That's the whole thing in this, Charles. It can't get to that point.
From what I'm reading, the Taepodong 2 that you referred could actually have the ability to carry a nuclear warhead. I want to bring in Jessie Jane Duff because, Gunny, the U.S. test-fired a Boeing missile. In fact, it was a $40 million Minuteman III. It went 4,200 miles all the way to the Marshall Islands. We fired it from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. That is an amazing show of strength and ability from America, distinctively aimed strictly at North Korea, and yet just 2-3 days later, they laugh at this administration. Exactly. They laugh at America. What can be done?
What we have to recognize is that just because their missile only went 25 miles, South Korea, Seoul, is only 36 miles away. They don't have to go far to kill one of our closest allies. So what do we have to do? There's multiple things on the plate. Right now, we have to make sure that they understand that our military is surrounding them, that they will be hit hard and slapped hard by the United States military if they should even breathe on one of our aircraft carriers, if they should even breathe on our allies. We have to show strength now, because the era of patience is now over, just like Secretary Tillerson already said.
Well, let me ask you on that note, Jessie Jane, do we wait for them to attack and counterattack, or is there anything preemptive we should be considering right now? Because the administration continues to say all options are on the table.
Absolutely. I do think that we're already considering preemptive actions, although we're never going to put our cards on the table. The reality is that our intelligence and the president have to move very quietly and discreetly, because you cannot give this crazy little Kim a lot of heads up on what you're going to do. Right now, we don't see that their missiles can make the distance that we're concerned about. However, it doesn't take far again to get to Seoul.